According to an April 2020 study, Climate Change in the American Mind, 7 in 10 Americans believe climate change is occurring. But what is climate change? Climate change is the environment's response to man-made things such as factories, fracking, and deforestation, which release a gas known as carbon dioxide. How is this harmful? Well, we have to look at an experiment by Hope Jahren, discussed in her book The Story of More, where her and a group of scientists controlled the sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide that plants were receiving in plexiglass containers. They found after leaving the lab for only 1 hour that the temperature had risen from 65 degrees to 90 degrees in these containers. Fossil fuel also contributes to climate change. Since 1969, the nations of the globe have burned enough coal to fill a grave the size of Texas and a volume of oil large enough to fill Lake Pontchartrain 3 times over. We also dumped more than 1 trillion tons of leftover carbon dioxide into the air. For reference, this is Lake Pontchartrain, which is 630 square miles, and this is Houston, which is an estimated 670 square miles. Now imagine this, but 3 times over. But it's not just fossil fuel burning. It's also things like overpopulation, overconsumption of sugar, overusage of electricity, overconsumption of meat, farming, cars, and even air travel. All of these things require so much energy when we use them too much that they create carbon gas emissions. And what happens is all of this energy and all of these emissions cause the temperature of the atmosphere to raise. This is known as the greenhouse effect. But the temperature has only risen to 1.5 degrees. Well, he's not wrong. But to explain how detrimental this is, we're going to use the water cycle. You see, the water evaporates into the clouds, and as the clouds condense, they grow heavy and they precipitate. When the Earth's atmosphere heats up, it causes this cycle to continue again and again and again. And the issue with this is it increases the frequency and the intensity of natural disasters such as flooding and hurricanes. It also causes the melting of polar ice caps, causing the sea level to rise and causing the endangerment of species in these environments. But that's not all. As it heats up in the north, with the atmosphere's temperature rising, it causes ice caps to melt, moving all of these cold winds down the currents into the ocean, down to the equator, which is usually known for being hot. This is what causes the weather change in patterns that we see today. You see, now the north is beginning to heat up, while the south is beginning to cool down. So in summary, climate change is in fact a fact. So then, why is there still debate about the existence of climate change? It's explained in the article Concern About Climate Change and Its Consequences, and it has to do with things like religion, age, political parties, personal experience, propaganda, and fear of economy. Except, every year that we don't address climate change, the global economy loses $900 billion. Propaganda against climate change efforts can come from fracking companies claiming science is unreliable and a fraud, and it has convinced the public, mostly right-wing political parties in places like the United States and Australia. It's also been found in countries that produce more carbon gas emissions, such as the United States and China, they are likely to have less concerns about the consequences of climate change, as opposed to countries with low carbon gas emissions, such as Latin America and Africa, are likely to have higher climate change concerns. This pattern continues as people between the ages of 18 and 39 are most likely to have concerns about climate change compared to those 49 and older. We also see this as Catholics and atheists are most likely to believe climate change exists compared to Protestants. But how does climate change affect me? Well, we can see it with the state of Louisiana. As the sea level begins to rise, the state has begun to lose land, and so far, it has raised by 4 inches. but we can also see it in forests, as deforestation devastates the environment and causes us to lose biodiversity in the environment. But we can also see it here in our own state of Texas, where things like the freeze in February are one of the many effects of the weather pattern changes because of climate change. And lastly, we also see this in California, where wildfires have gone to great measures and have harmed the state. So where do we go from here? Well, we're screwed. Well, not really. There are still two things that we can try. 1, rely on government policies, and 2, start at home. Let's play a game of Spot the Difference. Trick question. What these international agreements all have in common is that while they have been attempts to address climate change, they're just pieces of paper and empty promises, as no country actually follows them. According to Renee Cho, though, in her article 35 Ways to Reduce Your Carbon Footprint, you can start right at home, beginning with your diet. You see, all the grain that's used to fatten up cows for meat are one of the things that lead to climate change. And let's take a look at American statistics based on meat consumption. The average American has 4 pounds a week. If we were to drop this down to 2 pounds, we could increase the world grain supply by 15%. And this is just in the United States. You can also start by buying your groceries organic, using reusable bags whenever shopping, and looking at compost areas. And clothing-wise, don't buy fast fashion. Instead, go thrifting. And when washing clothes, use a cold water cycle. When you're shopping, be mindful of what you need and what you want. Don't buy stuff with excess packaging, and when looking for a new computer, opt for a laptop instead, as it requires less energy. And when buying appliances, look for this sticker, as it means that it is an energy-efficient product. At home, use LED lights, if possible. Unplug any electronics if they're not currently in use. Turn your water heater down to 120 degrees. And use shorter, colder showers. Doing this could save 900 pounds of carbon dioxide a year. Whenever trying to go to work or anywhere else, bike, walk, or use the bus. But if you do need to use your car, try not to drive aggressively, as it contributes to more climate change and requires more gas. Keep tires inflated. And don't use your AC in the summer. Whenever you do this, you can help address issues like starvation and the developing countries in Latin America and Africa, your health, and even help you save money. But overall, you can help save the planet and the environment, all at the same time. Is there anything else you can do? Yes, out of everything, that is most important is to vote. In the upcoming election in 2024, most of us in this classroom will be able to vote. Vote for a candidate that stands for climate change and wants to make policies to address this issue. But most importantly, remember that every meal we eat, every mile we travel, and every dollar we spend presents us with a choice between using more energy than we did last time or less. You have power. How will you use it?